started.
Oh yeah, it was deer today. Everybody but two people got out. And the two people were Brian and the assistant.
Good morning. Josh, I'm going to stand this morning. I'm looking at it as well. When peace I when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my heart has taught me to say, it is well with my soul. With my soul.
Okay, now I know something.
It is well.
My neighbor saw me.
My Savior, the bliss of His glorious song. My sin I part of the whole is nailed to the cross, and I carry no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. Brother, would you open us in prayer?
God, how great it is to be in your house and to sing these songs to praise you, Father, and how good it is to know that we can say it is good, it is well with my soul. Thank you, God, for allowing us to be here today, and I pray, Father, that everything I say will be pleasing to your ears.
All right, we're going to continue worshiping this morning with Your Love Never Fails. Nothing can separate, even if I am away. Your love never fails. Though I still make mistakes, you have new mercies for me every day. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. Any pain in the night, joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, 'cause I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Wind is strong and the water's deep, but I'm not alone in these open seas. Your love never fails. The chasm is hard to ride. I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. Maybe pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. You may be seated. We'll continue leaning on the everlasting arms. What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how sweet to walk in this pilgrim way, leaning on the everlasting arms. Oh, how bright the path grows from day to day, leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning, I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. What have I to dread? What have I to fear? Leaning on the everlasting arms. I have blessed peace with my Lord severe. Leaning on the everlasting arms. Leaning, safe and secure from all alarms. Leaning, I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. Amen. And as we come around the communion table this morning, we're going to be singing Hosanna. I see the King of glory coming on the clouds with fire. The whole earth shakes, the whole earth shakes. I see His love and mercy washing over all our sin. The people sing, the people sing. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. Show me how to love like you have loved me. Break my heart for what breaks yours. Everything I am for your kingdom's cause. As I walk from earth into eternity. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest.
Amen.
Reading today from Isaiah chapter 53. He is despised and rejected by man, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely he has borne our grief and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are gathered around this table to remember the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, and as it says at the front, Jesus and the endurance of him. And as we read in Isaiah, he did this for us. He loved us so much that he came to this earth to die for us. Even though we should have been there on the cross, he took our punishment, our grief, and nailed it to the cross.
Lord Jesus, please help us to use this time to reflect on your love and your sacrifice. We ask that you bless us to you.
I'm forgiven because you were forsaken. I'm
God. It's one the kids has in memory verse at the end of the summer. Memorize it. Psalm 118:1 says, "Give thanks to the Lord our God, for He is good and His faithful love endures forever." Let's pray.
Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this time that we can set aside a portion of things that you have given to us, things that you have blessed us with, and our talents and blessings that we've been able to help support our family. Lord, I pray that you just help us at this time, and thank you for the offering to support our church. Lord, we thank you for all the ministries that we were able to support because of it, and from local to around the world. All these things we do.
I have a maker. He formed my heart before even time began. My life was in His hand. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear when it falls, and He hears me when I call. I have a Father. He calls me His own. He'll never leave you, no matter where I go. He knows my name. He knows my every thought. He sees each tear when it falls, and He hears me when I call. And He knows your name. He knows your every thought. And He sees each tear when it falls, and He hears you when you call. And He hears you when you call.
Amen.
Kids may be dismissed to kids worship at this time. And everyone else, take your Bibles and turn with me to Mark chapter 13, beginning at verse 28. Mark 13, beginning at verse 28. This is sermon number 5 in this series of Until He Comes. Today we're going to talk about what should we do until He comes. What should we do until He comes? Beginning at Mark 13, verse 28. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that He is near at the very gates. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But concerning that day or the hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son of Man, but only the Father. Be on guard. Keep awake. For you do not know when the time will come. It's like a man going on a journey. And when he leaves home, he puts his servants in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. Therefore, stay awake. For you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. And what I say to you, I say to you all, stay awake. In the New Testament, there's 260 chapters. Christ's return is mentioned 318 times in those 260 chapters. Statistically, that is one verse for every 25 pages of the Bible that talks about the return of Jesus in some way, shape, or form. And so we should not make any mistake about it. Jesus is coming again. And God has given us very specific instructions for what we are to do while we wait. So let's think about that this morning. The first thing we need to do while we wait is wait patiently. Wait patiently. A group of travelers were waiting in line to board their airplane. And the time of departure had come and gone, and they were still waiting. And they continued to wait. And finally, one angry passenger walked up to the ticket counter, slammed his ticket down on the desk. He looked at the attendant and said, "Do you know who I am? I'm supposed to be on that plane. I'm supposed to be in first class. Do you know who I am?" The flight attendant, trying to be as nice as possible, said, "Sir, we will get to you as quick as possible, but you'll have to wait in line with everyone else." He looked at her again, slammed his hand down and said, "But do you know who I am?" And without hesitation, the flight attendant picked up the microphone and said, "We have a passenger here at gate 17 who does not know who he is. If anyone can help him find his identity, please come to gate 17. Well, you know, none of us like to wait. We don't like to do it, but don't we wait? Don't we wait at the stoplight and think, how long can that red light be red? You know, we want to go. Don't we wait when we go to the drugstore? You get in line trying to buy whatever you're trying to, and you got to wait. Or you go to the grocery store. You go to Walmart in Alta Vista at 10 o'clock at night, and the line is clear to the back of the store. You have to stand there and wait. You know, it's aggravating. I've watched, especially at Walmart, I've watched a lot of people just leave their basket and go, because they're not going to wait that long. It's crazy. None of us like to wait. We live in an instant world. We want everything right now, and even that's too long. You know, computers are so much faster than they used to be, and yet we fuss about how long they take, because we're tired of waiting for it to get to where we want it to be. But we have to wait. And when it comes to Christ's return, we have to wait. We have to wait. Do we know when He's coming? No. He told us to wait. He told us to wait. 1 Corinthians 1:7 says this. So that you're not lacking any gift as you wait for the revealing of our Lord Jesus Christ. Wait. Now, that word, I just looked it up. The Greek word. What in the world does the word mean? If we're going to wait patiently, and we have to wait for the coming Lord, what does it mean to wait? when you're waiting in line at that fast food restaurant, whatever one it is, and you're waiting in line, you're waiting there because you fully expect to get something to eat, right? So you wait. You be patient. You wait for it. When we're waiting for Jesus, we are to be waiting for him to come, fully expecting that that's going to happen. You know, there are a lot of people today want to tell us that it's not going to happen. A lot of people today, like Peter talks about, that, you know, scoffers, say, well, where does this come? It's been all this time. Well, they don't know how to count time like God counts. It's only been 2 days according to God's time frame. It's a day with the Lord's like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day. So, you know, it hasn't been long. Who knows when Jesus is coming? We don't know, but he says, wait. James chapter 5 and verse 7 says, be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it, until it receives the early and the late rains. You know, if anybody has to know how to be patient, it has to be a farmer. Because the farmer is totally dependent on the Lord. Once he plants that crop, it's up to the Lord to send the rain at the right time, for him to receive the harvest at the right time. The farmer has to be patient, you know. Yeah, Brian's not being very patient right now in our garden because the eggplants are beginning to grow, and he's ready to pick them. Now, somebody might help me out. Franklin, maybe you know a bit more about it. Anybody else knows how to grow eggplant? I need to know when they're ripe. I don't know how to tell. I've never grown them before. But anyway, you know, we're waiting for it. I'm watching that thing grow, and I'm looking at it, and it looks good, but I don't know if it's ready yet. So I'm going to wait. You know, well, we have to be patient about things, don't we? You don't want to go in your garden and pick the corn before the corn's ready to eat, do you? You got to be patient until it's ready. Well, can we be patient about things on this earth? Can we be patient and wait for the coming of Jesus, fully expecting him to come? Now, in the text that we read, he gave us 2 parables to help us understand that. The fig tree. When you see the fig tree budding out, you know something new. Okay? There's signs like that, you know. When we look for certain things, we can tell when things are about to happen. Or the man going on his journey, and he put his servants in charge. Now, they know he's coming back, but they don't know when. And the whole idea of both of those things is watch for the signs, watch for the time, and always stay awake, fully expecting that it's going to happen. That's what waiting patiently is all about. Fully expecting. But then number 2, he tells us to work faithfully until he comes. Work faithfully until he comes. In Luke 19:13 is the story of the master going away and leaving his servants in charge, and he gives them 10 minas. In Luke 19:13 he says, he gave them 10 minas and said, engage in business until I come. Now that's talking about working faithfully until Jesus comes. Yeah, we know we're going to wait patiently. It doesn't mean to do like the Thessalonians did. The Thessalonians, fully expecting Jesus to come back quickly, quit work, sat down, and waited for his coming. Jesus is saying, don't do that. Engage in business until I come. He has given us talents and gifts to use in his kingdom, to build his kingdom and to make it prosper until the day comes. In fact, we can help speed his coming by using those gifts and carrying the gospel to the whole world. We want him to come back quicker. We need to work a little harder. So, what is it we're supposed to be doing while we're working faithfully. Well, 2 Peter 3:18. But grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. To him be the glory both now and to the day of eternity. Amen. All right, so the first thing we need to be doing is growing in the grace and knowledge of Jesus. But how do we do that? How do we grow in the grace and knowledge of Jesus? Well, 1 Peter 2:2 tells us, like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk, that by it you may grow up to salvation. We need to long for God's Word. We need to study that Word that gives us the nourishment that we need to grow up. Now, we don't need to stay on milk. We don't need to study the surface of it. We need to go deeper in it, get the real meat out of it too, so that we can grow in that grace and that knowledge. That's why it's so important at 10 o'clock time when we're having Bible study to be here. It's why it's so important at the 6 o'clock hour when we're having Bible study to be here. It's why it's so important on Wednesday nights when we have Bible study to be here. Get deeper into that Word and grow in the grace and the knowledge of Jesus. But a second way we grow in that grace and knowledge of Jesus is found in 1 Peter 2:21. For you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example, so that you might follow in his steps. A second way to grow in the grace and knowledge of Jesus is indeed growing in our conduct to become Christ-like, to follow in his steps. And that's tremendously important for us to think about this morning. And I want us to think about two ways in particular that we need to grow more like Christ in our conduct. Because there are lots of ways. We could spend all day talking about this. But two ways in particular. One of those ways is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Remember Jesus hanging from the cross and making this statement? Father, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing. Jesus lived a life of forgiveness. But Jesus taught us some important things about forgiveness. In Matthew chapter 6 and in Matthew chapter 7, he teaches us some important lessons about forgiveness. He teaches us in those chapters that we're going to be judged partially by the way we show forgiveness to others. If we want mercy, we have to demonstrate mercy. And he says, by the same measure you use, it will be used against you. We need to practice forgiveness. Now, let me tell you a story I heard this week that is probably the greatest example of forgiveness, other than Jesus, that I've ever heard. Tim Manus was talking this past Thursday down at the quarterly luncheon in Kenya about his trip to Rwanda. He went with Frank Reynolds and Rwanda Challenge to help teach church leaders there the Bible. This is an interesting mission. We had a lot more time to talk about it. But anyway, so while he was there, he found out a few things about Rwanda that he didn't know before. And one of the things, he ran across several monuments to the genocide that took place in Rwanda. Remember that back in the 90s, that horrible thing. In 100 days, it was estimated that 1 million people were killed. Now, in Rwanda, it had always been that the church was the safest place to go to when things like that were happening. If you were in the church, you were safe. Well, one of the monuments that Tim saw was a church. Because during that 100 days, getting out of prison. Where are they going? You know that most of them, as they're getting out of prison, are being taken into the homes of the families of people that they execute. So it's like to say they executed my dad, and then I'm taking them into my home. Folks, that's forgiveness. That's forgiveness. That's a Christ-like spirit. That's what true love and forgiveness is all about. And we need to have that kind of spirit. But another thing that we need to think about in a Christ-like way is benevolence. Benevolence. Think about it. How many lepers did Jesus heal while he was on earth? Well, we don't know for sure. You know, we know one time there were 10, and he told them to go show themselves to the priest, and only one came back to give him thanks. And that one wasn't Jewish, he was a Samaritan. We know there are other times that Jesus touched the lepers, and that was a no-no. You didn't do that. Jesus touched the lepers and healed the lepers and sent them on the way. That was an awful disease. And no one would touch a leper. They weren't supposed to get anywhere close. Jesus in his benevolence not only healed them, but he touched them, and he loved them, and he let them know how much he cared. In Matthew chapter 25, Jesus is talking about his coming. But he says in there that anyone who gives a cup of cold water in his name has done it unto him. When Jesus comes and he looks at his servants and says, "Well done, good and faithful servant, because you fed me, you clothed me, you gave me that cup of cold water." And they're going to say, when did we see you? When did we do that? And they said, inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. And so we need to be benevolent. We need to reach out to people that have needs and be benevolent and to be caring and to be loving, because that's Jesus. And he wants us to have that kind of spirit, because that's the kind of spirit that's going to change this world. There's no politician that's going to make America great again. I don't care which one you choose. It's not going to happen. When it's going to happen is when Christians start living like Jesus. To be forgiving, to be loving, to be benevolent. And that's what he calls us to do. Look with me at Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 28. Let the thief no longer steal, but rather let him labor, doing honest work with his own hands, so that he may have something to share with anyone in need. You know, in the world we live in, most of the time people are looking out for themselves, what they can get for themselves. I think we can use the thief as an example. Somebody's looking out for himself, what he can get for himself. But that's the way our society is, isn't it? People are looking out for themselves and what they can get for themselves. And sometimes they use people to get what they can get for themselves. That's not a Christ-like spirit. Jesus said, let the thief find an honest job and work For what reason? Not to get ahead in this world, but to have something to share. How many times do we think about that when we get our paycheck? How many times do we think about, I need to set aside something to share with other people? That's what Jesus wants us to do. That's what the Apostle Paul said we need to do. Now, go with me to 1 Timothy. Turn to 1 Timothy chapter 6. And go to verse 17. As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of what is truly life. Now I want you to catch this. Let's think about it this way. We all live in the United States. Now, we may not be the richest people in the United States. But when you think about the rest of the world, even the poorest people in America are rich compared to the rest of the world. People that live in Haiti, the average income for somebody that lives in Haiti is $100 a year. $100 a year. And if we didn't make at least that much in a week, we'd be scared to death, right? And even that's not enough to live in the United States, is it? But, so, let's think about compared to the rest of the world. We're rich. We are, in so many ways. And we ought to give thanks to God that we were born in this country. That we have the things that we have in this country. But notice what he says here, what Paul says to Timothy. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share. That's what we're supposed to do with our riches. We're not supposed to store up treasures for ourselves here on earth. But by doing good, by being generous, by sharing what we have, we are storing up treasures for ourselves in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy, where moth and rust cannot corrupt. But we're storing up treasures by doing those good works that God called us to do. Oh, we need to look at money entirely different than the world wants to teach us how to look at it. We don't need to think about getting bigger and better and more things. We need to think about how much is it going to really cost me to live and what can I give? John Wesley did that. John Wesley started out and he determined what it cost him to live. And he took that much for himself. Now, in the early days of his ministry, we've been looking at in church history, John Wesley wasn't all that popular, so it probably took most of what he had to live. But as John Wesley continued to live, and he began to write books, and he began to be in demand as a speaker, and he began to make more money, John Wesley, his entire life, never took more to live than what he determined that first year it cost him to live. And everything else he gave away. For God's kingdom. What an example of what Paul was telling Timothy. Use what what we have for good. Do our good work. Be generous. Store up treasures for ourselves, not here on earth, but in heaven. And so we want to change our conduct. Those are two areas that really would help. Learning how to forgive and learning how to be benevolent, to be more Christ-like. But then that's not all. There's other things that he told us to do. There's one more thing, particularly I want to focus on this morning, and that's in Luke 21, verse 36. But stay awake at all times, praying that you may have the strength to escape these things that are going to take place and to stand before the Son of Man. You catch what he told us to do? Pray. What are we praying for particularly? To escape the things that are going to happen when Jesus returns. Now, prayer is a tremendously important ministry. And yet, we don't focus on it nearly enough. You know, it used to be Wednesday night, and I can remember when I first came here, it used to be Wednesday night was prayer meeting. And we would pray. And if there was time left over for Bible study, we would have Bible study. But if we prayed the whole hour, we just prayed. What happened to those days? Because I remember some nights we did nothing but pray. Just pray. Yet if we were saying that today we're going to have a prayer meeting tonight, everybody join us tonight at 6 o'clock, and we're just going to pray, people wouldn't show up. Well, has the need for prayer changed? I would say yes, it has. Because our world is far worse shape than it was 30 years ago. Maybe it's because we're not praying like we ought to. We need to pray for lots of things. When we stop and think, you know, we need to pray for those people that are sick. And we do that. We do a good job of praying for people that are sick. But what about praying for the lost? Don't we all know people that need to be saved? Well, why don't we spend time praying for the lost? What about praying for each other? Isn't that part of what Jesus asked us to do? Pray for each other, to encourage one another, help build each other up. And a lot of that's got to do with praying. What about praying for revival in our country? I think we can all agree that we need one. But you know, that's not going to happen until we pray. We've got to pray. We're going to pray for revival. We want Jesus to come back soon. Well, we need to pray. How did John close the book of Revelation? With a prayer. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. With a prayer. And how many times do we pray for that? Praying for our missionaries. You know, the Rwanda Challenge I mentioned, that's a mission that we ought to be praying for. That's a tremendous mission. And for all our missionaries, it's a tremendous thing that's going on. And helping spread the gospel around the world. And maybe we can't be there with them. We need to pray for them. Maybe take a different one every day and just spend 5 or 10 minutes just praying for that mission. You know, we need to pray. We need to be on our knees. They say that the Apostle James, or the brother of Jesus, who was called the Apostle later, had knees like a camel because he spent so much time in prayer on his knees. Well, we need to pray. Those are things Jesus told us to do to get ready for his coming. But then he told us one more thing. Watch expectantly. Watch expectantly. Now, I want you to think about this, and Chad's going to the next slide here. I've got several verses, because that word watch intrigued me. So I got several verses here for us to look at. In the King James Bible and Young's Literal Translation, it says, "And what I say unto you, I say to all, watch." But now the New American Standard says, "What I say to you, I say to all, be on the alert." But let's go to the next slide, Chad. The Contemporary English says, "I tell everyone just what I've told you, be alert." And then the English Standard says, "What I say to you, I say to all, stay awake." Now, there's three different ways that word watch is translated. Did you catch that? It's watch, be alert, stay awake. So what does the word mean? Just exactly that. Watch, stay alert, be awake. Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep. Now, I'm not talking about literally don't go to sleep, but spiritually, don't go to sleep. Don't get lulled into the busyness of this world that you forget your spiritual life. Stay awake. Because there says this about the word, and his definition of this word watch. Metaphorically means give a strict attention to, be cautious and active, and take heed lest through remission and indolence some destructive calamity suddenly overtake them. Now think about that for a minute. And think about the parable of the 10 virgins. The parable of the 10 virgins is found in Matthew chapter 25, the first 13 verses. We all know the parable. There were 10 virgins. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. They were waiting for the bridegroom to come. All right? So the bridegroom we know is Jesus. They were waiting for the bridegroom to come so they could go into the marriage supper. And while they're waiting, because he was taking a little while, they fell asleep. Okay? When someone called and said the bridegroom's coming, they all jumped up. 5 of them, the wise ones, got up and trimmed their lamps and got things ready and were waiting for the bridegroom. And the foolish ones that didn't take any oil with them said, we've run out of oil. We need some oil. We need some help. Give us some of your oil. We only have enough for us. We can't give you oil. So they went to buy some. While they were gone, the bridegroom came. The 5 wise went into the marriage supper. The door was shut, and no one else was allowed in. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. 5 were prepared. They were watching. They were alert. They were awake. 5 were foolish. They didn't know how to be ready, how to be prepared. Verse 13 says, "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." We need to understand something from all this emphasis on watching, being prepared, and the lesson behind the virgins. Salvation is conditional. Salvation is conditional. Look at 1 John 2:28. "And now, little children, abide in Him." And notice how I emphasize that. Abide in Him. Why? So that when He appears, we may have confidence and not shrink from Him in shame at His coming. It is those who are abiding in Jesus that won't have to be afraid the day when Jesus returns. We won't be like those in Acts chapter 6 that are crying out for rocks to fall on them and hide them from the coming of Jesus. We'll be looking for, expecting, prepared, and ready for the day when He comes back. We need to abide in Jesus. Well, let's look at the next verse. So we have come to know and believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. God is love. And so we have to abide in love to be able to abide in God. That word's agape. That word means just an unconditional love. We need to love people not because they're lovable, but we need to love people just because they're people created in God's image. We need to love the unlovable people and try to teach them what God has for them in store. That's what Jesus did, didn't He? He loved the Pharisees and the Sadducees, although He got so aggravated with them at times. He died for them too. And many of them became Christians because of His love for them. One more verse. 1 John 2:6 says, whoever says he abides in Him ought to walk in the same way in which He walked. See, if you're going to abide in God, you're going to abide in love, you're going to walk just like Jesus did. Just like Jesus. Doesn't that mean we need to study more about Him? And we need to know more about Him and how that took place and how I'm going to transform myself into being more and more like Him.
Amen.
If we want to go to heaven, that's what we have to do. That's what He told us to do as we're getting ready. William Barclay, a famous commentator a few years ago, tells a story about three devils that are trying to finish their internship up with Satan. And so they're coming to earth to do what they can do to deceive mankind. And so the first one says, well, I'll tell them that there is no God. And Satan said, that won't work. Because everybody knows there's a God. And so the second one said, well, I'll tell them there's no hell. And Satan said, that won't work. Because they know there has to be a punishment for sin. That won't work. So the third one said, I'll tell them there's no hurry. No hurry. There's no hurry to make Jesus your Lord and Savior. Satan said, go to earth and get to work. Let me tell you, friends, we don't know the day we have. It may be today. And I know you've heard me say this over and over and over again. When you look up in the clouds, you ought to look up expecting to see Jesus. You ought to be ready and prepared so that if He appears suddenly, it won't be a surprise, and we won't have to run and hide. But we'll be excited. We'll be filled with joy. Ready for that day when He comes. But you see, you can't do that if you're not a Christian. So let me ask you this. Are you a Christian? Or are you buying into the devil's lie? The devil's lie is there's no hurry. The Bible says, today is a day of salvation. If you're here and you're outside of Christ, maybe you're one that's saved today. But if you're here and you have some other decision, maybe it's to be a member of a Bible-believing church, or maybe it's to rededicate your life to Christ because you haven't been doing things just the way you want to. So maybe there's some other decisions you need. Maybe you just need somebody to pray with you. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever your decision for Christ today, won't you come and always stand and always sing.
God sent His Son, they call Him Jesus. He came to love, heal and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon, and empty grave is there to prove my Savior lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. And then one day I'll cross that river, I'll find life's final victory. And in that step, His way to victory, I'll see the lights of glory, and I know He lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. And life is worth the living just because He lives.
Be seated for just a minute, please. All right, tonight is time for the Christian Ladies Fellowship meeting, and they'll be meeting over in the Fellowship Hall. The Men's Leadership Bible Study will be over here tonight at 6, and YAC will be meeting tonight at 6. So everybody make sure you get here and get to the right meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. Wednesday night is Service Project Night. It's the end of August. We've been doing service projects, so kind of give me a little time to get back in the swing of things and whatnot. So this will be our last one in August, Service Project Night. In September, we get back on a new schedule. And in September, the first Wednesday night will be team meeting nights. Second and fourth Wednesday nights are Bible study nights, and the third Wednesday night will be service project nights. And so keep that schedule in mind. And while we're talking about schedules, I'm not going to try to go through all of these things, but there's a September schedule in your bulletin, so if you don't have one, make sure you get it. And then there's some things coming up in October, so make sure you have a bulletin and put those